Your plate is one of the most powerful medical tools you already own. After 60, what you eat doesn't just provide calories or energy. It actively shapes how your immune system behaves, how inflammation rises or settles, and how well your body protects itself over time. Here's what really happens as we age. The immune system becomes more sensitive to signals coming from food. Certain nutrients calm immune responses, while others quietly keep inflammation switched on. This inflammation doesn't always feel dramatic. It shows up as joint stiffness, slow recovery, digestive discomfort, or mental fatigue. Over time, it affects heart health, brain function, and overall resilience. Doctors and researchers increasingly refer to food as medicine, not because food replaces medical care, but because it influences the same biological pathways. Every meal sends messages to immune cells. These messages tell them whether the body is nourished and safe or stressed and under strain. After 60, the immune system listens more closely to these messages than ever before. One of the most important concepts in anti inflammatory nutrition is balance. Inflammation itself is not bad, it's a natural part of healing and protection. Problems arise when inflammation stays active longer than needed. Diet plays a central role in whether inflammation resolves or lingers. The foods recommended on an anti inflammatory plate tend to digest slowly and provide steady energy. They help stabilize blood sugar, which reduces metabolic stress on immune cells. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, immune pathways associated with inflammation are activated. Over time, this leads to chronic low grade inflammation that quietly damages tissues. You may notice that meals built around whole, minimally processed foods leave you feeling satisfied longer. Energy remains steady. Hunger doesn't return as quickly. These sensations reflect reduced immune stress and improved metabolic control. Another key factor is how food affects the gut. A large portion of the immune system resides in the digestive tract. The bacteria living there help train immune cells, teaching them what to tolerate and what to respond to. Diets rich in natural fibers, healthy fats, and plant compounds support beneficial gut bacteria. This support improves immune regulation and reduces unnecessary inflammation. Doctors often emphasize variety because different foods provide different immune supporting compounds. Plant foods contain polyphenols that help calm inflammatory signaling. Healthy fats support cell membranes and immune communication. Quality protein provides the building blocks for immune repair and maintenance. After 60, the body also becomes more sensitive to oxidative stress. Normal metabolism produces free radicals, which can damage cells if not neutralized. Anti inflammatory foods often contain antioxidants that help manage this process, reducing the need for inflammatory repair responses. You may also notice improvements in joint comfort and mobility when following an anti inflammatory eating pattern. Reduced inflammation means less fluid buildup, less pressure in joints, and faster recovery after movement. These changes often appear gradually but become noticeable with consistency. Another benefit is improved cognitive clarity. Chronic inflammation affects blood flow and signaling in the brain. Diets that reduce inflammatory burden are associated with better focus, memory, and mood in older adults. This connection highlights how food influences not just physical comfort, but mental well being. What makes the anti inflammatory plate especially powerful is that it doesn't rely on restriction or perfection. It's about emphasis rather than elimination. When supportive foods make up most of the plate, the immune system receives a consistent signal of nourishment and stability. Stress also interacts with diet. When stress is high, immune sensitivity increases. Anti inflammatory foods help buffer this effect by stabilizing blood sugar and supporting gut signaling. This buffering effect becomes more valuable as stress resilience naturally declines with age. Consistency matters more than individual meals. One anti inflammatory meal won't change immune health overnight, but repeated exposure trains immune cells to respond more accurately and resolve inflammation efficiently. Over time, this leads to improved comfort, energy, and resilience. After 60, health is less about aggressive interventions and more about daily guidance. The anti inflammatory plate quietly guides immune behavior at every meal. When chosen consistently, it becomes one of the most effective tools for supporting longevity, comfort, and independence well into later life. After 60, food becomes one of the strongest and most consistent signals your immune system receives each day, often more influential than supplements or occasional interventions. Every time you eat, immune cells interpret what's on your plate as information. They don't just extract nutrients, they read patterns, timing, and composition to decide how alert or calm they should remain. In earlier decades, the immune system is more flexible. It can tolerate mixed signals without much consequence. After 60, that flexibility decreases. Immune cells become more sensitive to repeated cues. This means the foods you eat regularly begin to shape whether inflammation switches off efficiently or lingers quietly in the background. Inflammation itself is not harmful. It's a natural response designed to protect and repair. The issue arises when immune cells stay partially activated, even when there's no injury or infection. This low grade inflammation doesn't always announce itself loudly. Instead, it shows up as stiffness that lasts longer, slower recovery, digestive sensitivity, or a general sense that the body feels heavier than it used to. Food plays a central role in this process because immune cells are deeply connected to metabolism. When meals cause rapid blood sugar spikes or oxidative stress, immune cells interpret these changes as signs of internal strain. They respond by releasing inflammatory signals meant to protect tissues. When this response happens, occasionally the body recovers. When it happens day after day, inflammation becomes the default setting. After 60, immune cells also become slower to shut down once activated. This means that inflammatory responses last longer than they need to. Diet can either amplify this problem or help resolve it. Foods that digest slowly and provide steady energy give immune cells time to respond accurately and then return to baseline. You may notice that certain meals leave you feeling calm, satisfied, and steady. Others may leave you bloated, fatigued, or achy. These sensations are reflections of immune signaling. When the body feels nourished and stable, immune cells relax. When the body feels stressed internally, immune cells remain alert. Doctors increasingly emphasize food as medicine because diet influences the same biological pathways targeted by many treatments. Blood sugar regulation, oxidative stress, gut signaling, and inflammatory pathways are all shaped by what you eat. After 60, these pathways become more tightly connected, making food choices more impactful. Another reason food becomes such a powerful immune signal later in life is frequency. You eat multiple times every day. That means immune cells are exposed to food related signals far more often than to medications or therapies. This repetition trains immune behavior over time. The immune system learns through exposure. When it repeatedly encounters supportive signals, it adapts by reducing unnecessary activation. When it repeatedly encounters stress signals, it adapts by staying on guard. After 60, this learning process becomes more pronounced. You may also notice that tolerance for certain foods changes with age. Foods that once caused no issue may now lead to discomfort or inflammation. This reflects changes in immune sensitivity and gut function. The immune system is signaling that it needs clearer, gentler input. Food also influences immune communication between organs. Immune cells rely on chemical messengers carried in the bloodstream. When meals cause metabolic instability, these messages become distorted. Stable, nourishing meals improve clarity in immune communication, allowing responses to be more precise. After 60, immune health is less about boosting and more about guiding. Boosting can overstimulate an already sensitive system. Guiding helps immune cells respond when needed and rest when not. Understanding that food is a primary immune signal changes how meals are viewed. Eating becomes an act of communication rather than control. Each plate tells the immune system whether to brace or relax. Over time, consistent immune friendly eating patterns reduce background inflammation. Joints recover faster, energy stabilizes, mental clarity improves. These changes don't come from extreme diets, but from repeated, gentle guidance. After 60, the immune system is listening closely. Food speaks every day. When that message is calm, predictable, and nourishing, immune responses become more balanced, allowing inflammation to resolve properly and supporting long term resilience. An anti inflammatory plate stabilizes blood sugar and reduces metabolic stress. And after 60, this becomes one of the most important ways diet influences immune health. Blood sugar levels don't just affect energy, they directly shape immune signaling, inflammation, and how much strain the body experiences after every meal. When you eat, your body breaks food down into glucose, which enters the bloodstream and fuels cells. In younger years, blood sugar rises and falls smoothly. After 60, this regulation becomes less efficient. Spikes tend to be higher, and it takes longer for levels to return to normal. Each spike sends a stress signal throughout the body, and the immune system responds to that signal. Rapid rises in blood sugar trigger the release of insulin. While insulin is essential, repeated large releases place metabolic strain on cells. Immune cells interpret this strain as a sign that the internal environment is unstable. In response, they activate inflammatory pathways designed to protect tissues during stress. When this happens repeatedly, inflammation stops being a temporary response and becomes a chronic condition. An anti inflammatory plate helps prevent this cycle by slowing digestion and smoothing the release of glucose into the bloodstream. Foods rich in fiber, healthy fats, and quality protein digest more slowly. This creates a gradual rise in blood sugar rather than a sharp spike. Immune cells experience this as stability rather than stress. You may notice the difference in how you feel after meals. With a balanced plate, energy lasts longer. Hunger doesn't return as quickly. There's less of a crash or sudden fatigue. These sensations reflect reduced metabolic stress and calmer immune signaling. After 60, immune cells become more sensitive to metabolic fluctuations. What once caused only a small reaction can now trigger a stronger inflammatory response. This is why meals that once felt harmless may now lead to stiffness, bloating, or fatigue. Stabilizing blood sugar helps reduce these reactions. Doctors often focus on blood sugar not only because of diabetes risk, but because glucose instability drives inflammation throughout the body. Chronic inflammation affects joints, blood vessels, nerves, and the brain. By stabilizing blood sugar, an anti inflammatory plate reduces the need for immune cells to remain activated. Another important factor is insulin resistance, which becomes more common with age. When cells respond less effectively to insulin, blood sugar remains elevated longer. Immune cells detect this prolonged elevation and respond with inflammation. Anti inflammatory meals help improve insulin sensitivity by reducing metabolic overload. Metabolic stress also increases oxidative stress. When blood sugar spikes, cells produce more free radicals as a byproduct of energy metabolism. These unstable molecules damage tissues and trigger immune repair responses. Over time, repeated oxidative stress increases inflammatory burden. Anti inflammatory foods often contain antioxidants that help neutralize free radicals, reducing the need for immune activation. You may also notice that stable blood sugar improves mental clarity. The brain relies on steady glucose delivery. Sharp rises and falls disrupt neurotransmitter balance and increase inflammatory signaling in the brain. An anti inflammatory plate supports smoother brain function by maintaining stable energy supply. Stress interacts with blood sugar regulation as well. When stress hormones are elevated, blood sugar rises more easily and stays elevated longer. Anti inflammatory meals help buffer this effect by providing nutrients that slow digestion and support hormonal balance. Consistency amplifies these benefits. One balanced meal helps, but repeated stable meals retrain metabolic and immune responses. Over time, the body expects steadier glucose levels, and immune cells reduce baseline inflammatory activity. This approach doesn't require strict elimination of foods. It emphasizes proportion and balance. When most of the plate supports stable blood sugar, occasional indulgences have less impact. The immune system responds to the overall pattern rather than individual events. After 60, reducing inflammation is closely tied to reducing metabolic stress. An anti inflammatory plate accomplishes this quietly at every meal by stabilizing blood sugar and easing the metabolic workload. It allows immune cells to function accurately, resolve inflammation efficiently, and support long term health without strain. Gut health plays a central role in immune regulation, and after 60, the relationship between the gut and the immune system becomes even more important. A large portion of immune cells live in and around the digestive tract, constantly monitoring what passes through it. This makes the gut one of the primary training grounds for immune behavior. Every time you eat, immune cells in the gut are exposed to food particles, nutrients, and signals from gut bacteria. These immune cells must decide what is safe and what requires a response. When the gut environment is healthy, immune cells learn tolerance. They respond calmly and accurately. When the gut environment is disrupted, immune cells become more reactive, increasing inflammation throughout the body. As we age, changes in digestion and gut bacteria become more common. Stomach acid production may decrease. Digestive enzymes become less efficient. The diversity of beneficial gut bacteria tends to decline. These changes reduce the gut's ability to regulate immune responses properly. You may notice this as increased sensitivity to certain foods, bloating, irregular digestion, or discomfort after meals. These symptoms are not just digestive issues, they reflect immune activity in the gut reacting more strongly than it should. Anti inflammatory foods support gut health by nourishing beneficial bacteria. Fiber from vegetables, fruits, and whole foods acts as fuel for these bacteria. When beneficial bacteria are well fed, they produce compounds that help calm immune cells and reinforce the gut barrier. This barrier prevents unwanted particles from entering the bloodstream and triggering immune reactions. After 60, the integrity of this gut barrier becomes more fragile. When it weakens, immune cells are exposed to signals that increase inflammation. Anti inflammatory foods help maintain barrier strength by supporting bacterial balance and providing nutrients that protect the gut lining. Another important factor is communication. Gut bacteria send chemical messages to immune cells that influence how aggressively they respond. When bacterial diversity is high, these messages promote balance. When diversity is low, immune responses become less regulated. You may notice improvements beyond digestion when gut health improves. Joint stiffness may decrease. Skin irritation may lessen. Energy may feel steadier. These changes occur because immune regulation improves throughout the body, not just in the gut. Doctors emphasize gut health because it influences systemic inflammation. When immune cells in the gut are constantly activated, inflammatory signals spread through circulation, affecting distant tissues like joints, blood vessels, and the brain. Supporting gut balance reduces this inflammatory spillover. Anti inflammatory foods also reduce gut irritation. Highly processed foods can disrupt bacterial balance and irritate the gut lining, triggering immune activation. Whole, minimally processed foods are easier for the gut to handle and less likely to provoke inflammation. Consistency matters here as well. Gut bacteria respond to patterns, not isolated meals. When anti inflammatory foods are eaten regularly, bacterial populations shift toward balance. Immune cells adapt to this environment and reduce unnecessary activation. Stress plays a role in gut immune interaction. Chronic stress alters gut bacteria and weakens the gut barrier. Anti inflammatory foods help counteract this effect by supporting digestion and stabilizing immune responses. Sleep also influences gut health. Better sleep improves bacterial balance And walking or calm routines combined with anti inflammatory eating amplify these effects. These systems work together after 60. Supporting gut health becomes one of the most effective ways to reduce inflammation without aggressive interventions. The gut acts as a control center for immune regulation. When it functions well, immune responses throughout the body become calmer and more accurate. Food choices that support gut health don't need to be complicated. They need to be consistent, gentle, and nourishing. Over time, these choices retrain immune cells to respond with balance rather than reactivity, allowing inflammation to resolve properly and supporting long term health and resilience. Anti inflammatory foods reduce oxidative stress and support tissue repair in ways that become especially important after 60 because the body's ability to recover from everyday wear and tear naturally slows with age. Oxidative stress is a normal byproduct of metabolism, but when it accumulates faster than the body can manage, it becomes a powerful driver of inflammation and tissue damage. Every cell in your body produces energy, and in doing so, it creates unstable molecules known as free radicals. In younger years, the body neutralizes these molecules efficiently. After 60, that neutralizing system becomes less effective. Free radicals linger longer, damaging cells and signaling the immune system to respond. That response is inflammation. This is where diet becomes a key protective factor. Many anti inflammatory foods contain antioxidants, natural compounds that help neutralize free radicals before they trigger immune activation. By reducing oxidative stress, these foods lower the need for prolonged inflammatory responses. You may notice the effects of oxidative stress in subtle ways. Joints feel achier after activity, muscles take longer to recover, skin heals more slowly, mental fatigue sets in sooner. These are not isolated issues. They reflect how inflammation and oxidative stress affect tissues throughout the body. Anti inflammatory foods support tissue repair by providing nutrients that immune cells and repair cells need to do their work efficiently. Quality proteins supply amino acids used to rebuild tissues. Healthy fats support cell membranes and communication between cells. Plant compounds support blood flow and reduce inflammatory signaling. After 60, tissue repair becomes more dependent on efficient immune regulation. Immune cells are still capable of repair, but they require a supportive environment. When oxidative stress is high, immune cells remain activated longer than necessary, delaying recovery. Anti inflammatory foods help create conditions where repair can happen without excessive immune involvement. Joint health benefits significantly from reduced oxidative stress. Cartilage is particularly vulnerable because it has limited blood supply. When inflammation and oxidative damage accumulate, cartilage breaks down more quickly. Anti inflammatory eating patterns help protect joints by reducing the inflammatory burden and improving circulation to surrounding tissues. Blood vessels also benefit. Oxidative stress damages the lining of blood vessels, triggering immune responses that contribute to stiffness and reduce flexibility. Anti inflammatory foods support vascular health by protecting vessel walls and improving blood flow. This reduces strain on the heart and improves oxygen delivery to tissues. The brain is another major beneficiary. The brain is highly sensitive to inflammation and oxidative stress. Chronic inflammation interferes with neurotransmitter signaling and blood flow, contributing to memory and mood changes. Diets rich in anti inflammatory compounds have been associated with better cognitive performance and reduced risk of age related decline. You may notice improved mental clarity when inflammation is lower. Thoughts feel sharper, mood feels more stable. These changes reflect reduced immune activation in the brain. Anti inflammatory foods also support the immune system's ability to resolve inflammation. Inflammation is meant to be temporary. When oxidative stress is high, immune cells receive repeated danger signals and struggle to shut off. Reducing oxidative stress helps immune cells complete their job and return to a resting state. Another important aspect is mitochondrial health. Mitochondria are the energy producing structures inside cells, and they are particularly sensitive to oxidative damage. Anti inflammatory foods help protect mitochondria, improving energy production and reducing fatigue. You may notice increased stamina and less exhaustion when mitochondrial function improves. This supports physical activity, which further reduces inflammation in a positive cycle. Consistency amplifies these benefits. Occasional antioxidant rich meals help, but regular intake creates a sustained reduction in oxidative stress. Over time, immune cells adapt to this calmer environment and reduce baseline inflammatory activity. After 60, protecting tissues is not about avoiding activity or stress entirely. It's about improving the body's ability to recover. Anti inflammatory foods provide the raw materials and protective compounds needed for that recovery. By reducing oxidative stress and supporting tissue repair, these foods help protect joints, blood vessels, muscles, and the brain. They allow immune cells to work efficiently without staying activated longer than necessary. This balance supports mobility, clarity, and resilience, helping the body age with greater comfort and stability. Consistency in building anti inflammatory meals matters more than perfection, especially after 60, because the immune system responds to patterns, not isolated events. One ideal meal cannot undo days of inflammatory signaling, just as one less supportive meal does not erase weeks of balanced eating. What shapes immune behavior over time is what happens most often. After 60, immune cells become more sensitive to repeated cues. They are less adaptable to sudden swings and more influenced by steady routines. This is why consistency becomes such a powerful tool. When meals regularly send calm, nourishing signals, immune cells learn that the internal environment is stable. They reduce unnecessary activation and become more efficient at resolving inflammation when it appears. Perfection, on the other hand, often introduces stress. Strict rules, rigid restrictions, or guilt around food can increase psychological strain. Stress hormones like cortisol directly influence immune activity, often increasing inflammation. A pattern that is sustainable and relaxed supports immune balance far better than a pattern that is perfect but stressful. You may notice that when meals are generally supportive, the body becomes more forgiving. Occasional indulgences cause fewer symptoms. Recovery is faster. This reflects improved immune resilience rather than fragility. The immune system is no longer on constant alert because it trusts the overall pattern. Consistency also supports metabolic stability. When the body knows what to expect, blood sugar regulation improves. Predictable meals reduce extreme fluctuations that trigger inflammatory pathways. Over time, immune cells adapt to this steadier metabolic environment and reduce baseline inflammatory signaling. The gut benefits greatly from consistency as well. Beneficial gut bacteria thrive on regular fuel. When fiber and whole foods appear consistently, bacterial populations stabilize. This stability improves immune tolerance and reduces overreaction to harmless stimuli. Irregular eating patterns disrupt this balance, increasing immune sensitivity. After 60, digestion becomes more sensitive to irregularity. Skipping meals, overeating occasionally, or alternating between extremes can confuse digestive and immune signaling. Consistent meal patterns help the gut and immune system stay aligned. Consistency also improves nutrient availability. Immune cells require a steady supply of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids to function properly. Sporadic intake leads to uneven availability, which can impair immune responses. Regular, balanced meals ensure immune cells have what they need without spikes or shortages. You may notice improved energy when eating patterns are consistent. Fatigue decreases, focus improves. These changes reflect smoother immune and metabolic communication. When immune cells are not constantly responding to stress signals, energy can be directed toward repair and maintenance. Another benefit of consistency is reduced decision fatigue. Knowing what a typical meal looks like reduces mental strain. Less stress means lower inflammatory signaling. This psychological component becomes more important with age when stress recovery slows. Consistency also reinforces circadian rhythms. Regular meal timing helps synchronize internal clocks that influence immune function. When immune timing improves, inflammatory responses become more precise and resolve more efficiently. Doctors often emphasize long term dietary patterns rather than short term fixes because immune adaptation takes time. The immune system needs repeated exposure to supportive signals to change its baseline behavior. This adaptation cannot happen with occasional effort. Flexibility within consistency is key. An anti inflammatory plate does not require exact portions or constant vigilance. It requires that supportive foods make up most meals most days. This approach allows for enjoyment without sacrificing immune balance. After 60, health is built quietly through repetition. Small, consistent choices shape immune behavior far more than dramatic but unsustainable changes. Each supportive meal reinforces a message of stability and nourishment. Over time, this repetition lowers background inflammation, improves recovery, and supports long term resilience. The immune system learns to respond accurately rather than aggressively. Joints move more freely, energy steadies, mental clarity improves. Consistency allows the immune system to trust its environment. When that trust is established, inflammation resolves more efficiently, and the body is better equipped to maintain comfort, function, and independence as it continues to age.